Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My family was traveling to Turkey for a 3-year stay. My father was in the military. He was stationed there in the capital city. And we stopped off in New York City to see relatives and to visit the 1964 World's Fair. My parents wanted us 3 kids to know how to get around the big city, I think. So one afternoon, in the press of rush hour pedestrian traffic in a subway tunnel under the Roosevelt Hotel, we came across a well-dressed middle-aged woman in her Sunday best with a powder blue pillbox hat and a veil, screaming at the top of her lungs to no one in particular to get out of her subway and to leave her alone. There was fire in her eyes and venom in her voice. We were an arm's length away from her. I was 11 years old. It kind of shook me to this day. And then a few years ago in Chicago, I was no longer 11. I was on a fairly packed rush hour red line train under State Street when a well-dressed older woman entered the car, and from the beginning of a low muttering voice, within 20 seconds ended up shouting to nobody in particular that the end of the world was coming and only Jesus could save us. There was fire in her eyes as she walked up and down the subway car, yelling. So I remember these experiences at age 11 and 55, being somewhat frightened and feeling that I'm not safe, you know. And I remember the intensity of the energy of these women's eyes. I mean, it was a desperate, piercing energy, almost a pleading energy, if you will. And in Chicago, I remembered thinking how isolated both these women were. And thus, of course, they chose rush hour, underground, to be around other people and to interact with them in some way. Makes a lot of sense. So in the gospel today, Jesus encounters such a human being in the country of the Gerasenes long ago. Luke tells the story with great poignant details. Details which I think, again, point to the incredible loneliness of this possessed young man who comes into this public sphere to socialize and not be alone with his tormenting thoughts. So Luke sets out this story in a series of 4 episodes of healing, you remember? The stilling of the storm, the healing of this man today, a healing of a sick woman, and the raising of a dead girl. For Luke, the location is important. This is Gentile territory. And worse than that, it's pig-feeding territory. Someone said, this is Jewish Skid Row. And Jesus' healing then has more weight, actually, for Luke than when he heals in Jewish territory. So, of course, we're hearing echoes, right, of Jesus going to the Gentiles, taking the gospel out. And we hear echoes of the prodigal son, right, who was also a swineherd at the bottom of the barrel. So this exorcism of this young fellow comes with a normal pattern known to everybody at the time. First, there's a confrontation with the devil. You gotta confront the devil. You just don't go, ooh. Confront the devil. You gotta name the demon. The command for the demon to leave, the condition of the person exorcising the effect on the observers. Actually, in modern exorcisms, it's the same thing, just letting you in on a little secret. So Luke's hearers, of course, knew what the abyss was that the demons didn't want to go back to. That is the nether world, the abode of the spirits of the dead, imprisoned spirits in the place of Satan's prison. No wonder the demons didn't want to go back there. So the demons would rather go into these animals, thinking that putting the animals into the sea will put them beyond Jesus' power. But they're wrong. Remember, Jesus calms even the sea. So these demons made a serious miscalculation. There is no place in this world or beyond where the power of Jesus to set people free is not available. We all are not happy with this exorcism. The swine herders and the townspeople are filled with fear. Golly, what else will this man do among us? They are ticked off that the livelihood of their village has now been sent over a cliff. Before, the people had managed to care and tolerate this possessed young man because they gave time and expense to guard him and to control him. But now this powerful stranger comes to town and upsets their status quo, ruins their economy. What's the lesson? Even if it is for good, such mighty power can't be managed or controlled. Even if it's for good, such mighty power can't be managed or controlled. What will God do next? And will we like it? Might it change us? Challenge us? Might it dismantle what we have? Might it leave us bereft? My two women encountered underground in my lifetime, and this young man from Gerasa this morning are three souls in the grip of something. And that something, most likely in the ancient world, was considered demon possession, and we might consider it now schizophrenia or psychosis or organic brain disease. Back then it was treated by exorcism, and now it's treated with a combination of drugs, some with side effects that many cannot tolerate. Many can be integrated back into society, but some cannot. We know all that too well from experience here at Canterbury over the last year. But being in the grip of something is ultimately a spiritual issue, because religion in general and Christianity in specifics is all about freedom. True freedom comes from God, and no demon or psychosis or netherworld fear outstrips the power of God, ever. The demons in Gerasa seem to understand this clearly. Do we?